For me, like my faith is very personal. Like my relationship with God is something that's like no one's business. It's my business. It does come at a cost when you're on such a public platform. But the thing is, like, people are going to judge you no matter what you do. It used to really affect me. Like, I'm human after all, and it still does affect me. Like, I've just chosen to not give a really. I do get a lot of hate very often. When I first started posting on TikTok, I would wake up every day to like at least 2 or 3 hate comments every day. How can you think that being American only means being white? Maybe this will get me in a little bit of trouble.
Nabeela, hi and welcome to Figuring Out. Really excited to have you, and we've had our fair share of tech issues over the past 15 minutes or even longer, but hopefully this time it's going to work. Yeah. But very excited to speak to you. Couple of hours of difference between us, but given, the feedback that I had from the very first podcast where I had Shika on, and people really wanted to hear more from Mauritian women and Mauritian men. So hopefully today will be an interesting conversation. But for people listening to you for the very first time, I'm aware you have an active community, they know you. But for people listening to you for the first time, give us an introduction, tell us a bit about your journey and where you're based right now.
All right. Well, thanks for having me here, Gemma. Really great to finally talk to you over video rather than just chatting over Instagram. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nabeela. I am a 27-year-old Mauritian girl living in Sydney. I have lived here for about 7 years now. I live here with my husband and my 3 fur babies. I have 2 cats and 1 dog. I did grow up in Mauritius. I lived in Mauritius until I was 18, and then I left to Singapore, and then I went to Dubai, and then I finally settled down in Sydney. I started creating content on Instagram when I started traveling a lot more back in 2016, and that's when I was posting most of my travel content, and I guess my platform just kind of took off amongst Mauritians back then. And now I create a lot more content on TikTok where I share a lot about makeup, a lot about fashion, and all my traveling tricks and tips for all of you guys. That's who I am.
It sounds like a very fulfilled journey so far, and I only wish you the very best going forward. But one of the things that people don't know about you, and this is probably something we discussed before the podcast, so I work in banking, so I work in finance, so do you. And occasionally, not everyone, I think people tend to think like, okay, content creation is what we do unless we speak about our jobs. Yeah. And I think, what you do is quite a challenging job. But for someone listening to you for the very first time, you're a bullion trader. Let's talk about this. Yeah. Let's unpack a few things for maybe aspiring women and men wanting to do the same thing. I understand it's a bit of a niche market, but if you could explain it in layman terms, what exactly do you do and how did you get into it?
Yeah. All right. Yep. So I studied finance in uni. That's how I kind of got into the bullion industry. I really had no intention of going into the bullion industry when I was studying. If anything, I wanted to get into banking at that time, but definitely I feel like this is the job for me. I love this job. I love what I do. For those who don't know, bullion is precious metal pretty much, but for investment. So they're made into like these little tiny bars or coins, or they can be in any form, coins, tablets, and things like that. What I do is I manage portfolios for my clients. So I am a bullion trader / like portfolio manager. So I help my clients invest in gold, silver, platinum, or palladium. And it's like buying and selling pretty much depending on how the market is going. It's kind of like the share market almost. So gold, for example, is pegged against the US dollar. So whatever happens to the US dollar, it does affect gold. And also whatever happens in the market in general affects gold and affects all the precious metals pretty much. So right now gold is at an all-time high, so it's extremely busy for me at work, which is why I've been a little bit quiet on social media for my followers who are here. That's why I've been a bit missing. Yeah, it's just extremely busy at work at the moment because the precious metal market is just right now.
So,
Perfect.
your job, obviously, I suppose you do have. Are your hours like my hours, for instance, are like 7 to 6 p.m. on average. Are your hours kind of okay, or are they bad, or are they long?
My hours are generally all right. I work from 8:30 to 5. But obviously when it's extremely busy, then it does go for a bit longer. For example, but it's not because we are in the office pretty much at all times. Like I always go to the
Right.
office. I work from the office 5 days a week. So the office does close after a certain time, and then we just leave the rest for tomorrow, pretty much. There's an actual cutoff, yeah. The work does continue, but we have like a platform online where pretty much the clients can do whatever they want online after hours. And then if there's anything that they need help with, we just deal with it in the mornings.
And is there a particular part of the job that you don't like at all?
Well, with the precious metal market, maybe this will get me in a little bit of trouble. There's there's a lot of silver buyers, and sometimes the silver buyers, like I'm not trying to sound mean, but they can
Mm-hmm.
be not very nice people. Like
Okay.
they can be not very. Some people are just not very educated, so they can be quite rude about things that are out of your control.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even if, let's say, the price tanks, for example, or if we've run out of a certain type of product or something like that. So sometimes we do get quite angry clients who, yeah, they will let you know
Okay.
that they're unhappy pretty much. Like they can be extremely rude. I've had some people be extremely racist as well. So that's the but to be honest, now I don't really deal with
Okay.
those clients anymore because I deal mostly with VIP clients. So my clients are the people who I've built a relationship with and who I've kept.
Mm-hmm.
But before, when I was first starting, so that was the part of the job that I just didn't like. Also, another part of the job that I guess I don't really like is when it's at an all-time high, like right now when the market is really booming. It's extremely busy. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's extremely busy. You don't even have time to take breaks. You don't have time to go to the bathroom sometimes. So, but it keeps the day moving. So if
Of
it's not
course.
busy, I get bored. So there's ups and downs. But
Yeah, I definitely hear you. I think on days when I go to work, I'm like, on days where I know, there's nothing topical, there's nothing hot, because obviously it drives the client traction, it drives the client calls, like something's moving in the market. I hear you. Like the day goes
yeah,
by so slowly, but
yeah.
on days when it's really busy, I can tell. And maybe before we jump onto something else, how do you, as a
Mm-hmm.
27-year-old woman, obviously you talk about the negative aspect that you didn't like at that time and you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
deal with it now. Did you come up with any particular approach or any particular way of dealing with it, or did you just block out the noise and didn't react at all? Is there any particular defense mechanism
Yeah.
internally that you like, this is how I should maybe try and cope
Yeah,
with the
to be fair, when
situation?
I first started, I was very reactive to these things and they would kind of affect me and affect my mood throughout the day. But now that I've been doing this for about 4 years now, I've grown as well, so I'm a bit less reactive to things and I get less angry, I guess, hopefully. Um, yeah, so the way I deal with it really is just I try to just yeah, just block the noise out pretty much. Like if there's something that's out of my control and someone just wants to rant out about something, I just hear them and I just apologize. That's all you can do really. Like even if it's not your fault, like as a company, if you're working for a
Hmm.
company, you just really the clients just really want to feel heard sometimes, even though they know that maybe there's no solution to whatever they're complaining about. They sometimes just want to feel heard, and I've
Hmm.
come to realize that. And sometimes it's just best to just let them say what they want to say, and yeah, just apologize. Maybe like don't come
Got it.
back.
And maybe moving on to your other side hustle. So you launched your
Yeah.
own line of brushes and
Yes.
pocket mirrors. So let's talk about this because you have this job on the side, then you have your content creation, and then you're trying to obviously you've got your personal life and then you come up with these different products. So would you call yourself now an entrepreneur where you're trying to think about different products that you can bring onto the market,
Yeah.
market them, try to think about selling strategies? So let's talk about this part of your life and the business idea
Yeah, no,
generation.
definitely.
How did
I
that
would
come about?
definitely call myself an entrepreneur. I wouldn't say it's just from me launching my brand. My whole family is like a family of entrepreneurs, pretty much. My mom has her own shop. My aunts have their shops as well, and I've been in their business pretty much since I was a child. You guys probably know my aunt at least, like her shop's name is Shaba Fashion. It's like a pretty popular shop in Mauritius. So yeah, I've just come from a family of entrepreneur, and yeah, definitely I would call myself one. And my brand's Classy. Yeah, that's like my little baby. My goal for Classy, pretty much the reason I launched Classy is because I know how it can be really, really hard to get some products in Mauritius, and I just want to make it a bit easier for girls, maybe eventually for men, or for everyone really, to get their hands on like really cool gadgets or whatever it may be. Like I have a lot of things in the works at the moment, so yeah, like when I was using the hairbrush and I was like, this is a really cool thing. Like I need to bring this to Mauritius, and I know like people were gonna love it, and it sold out within a couple of months. So it was really great to see it, and I have very supportive followers, so I'm very thankful for them. And even my pocket mirror, like it's just like I feel like it's such a cool thing to have. So I always I always find things, and I'm like right now I'm using something that I really want to bring to Mauritius soon because I feel like it's so useful, and I just like find things that I think are going to be useful for everyone, and I try to make that available to Mauritians.
And as part of that business journey, as part of that entrepreneur journey, is there, so right now with a podcast, for instance, and there's a new term that I've learned, by the way, it's called OMA, OMA, it's called One Man Army. And I feel like you would be like a one man army where you're like thinking about the designing, thinking about the product, who are the
Yeah.
people, and you could be delegating, but it's like it's down to you to think about the people you're
Yeah.
delegating tasks to.
Yeah.
And it's stressful sometimes, but I do like not
The
stress,
hustle.
but the dynamics of it, like being on the go, trying to set up the
Yeah.
gear, trying to set up the camera. So for you, what, like, is there any particular part of the journey where you feel, okay, that's too stressful, and how do you keep going for
Yeah,
entrepreneur
I
listening to you
wouldn't
right
say
now?
I'm a one man army though. Like my husband is extremely supportive about everything, and yeah, my husband is really the one who goes out to source products for me. So definitely, yeah, definitely a two man. So
Okay.
I am not this like I'm not the only founder of Sclassi. I'm the co-founder. Like my husband is the other founder of Sclassi. So very helpful. Like he does all the behind the scenes that you guys don't see. He's perfect.
So you get to share, the stress
Definitely,
and the
yeah. I get to
management
share the
of
stress,
it.
that's for sure. Like especially when you're dealing with manufacturers, like it can be quite stressful, and um if you're having to haggle prices, all that sort of stuff, like I just leave that to him. I find the products that's gonna work, and then I'm like, oh, we need to find something that's like this, or we need to find a manufacturer for this product, and then he goes out and like tries to source them. Yeah, so he does share the stress with me. But yeah, there is something that I would like to share with entrepreneur, like is I just think like when you're launching your own business, like you have to put a lot of efforts behind it. Like people don't really see the efforts that you've put behind, um, yeah, creating your business, whatever it might be, launching a brand or whatever it is that you do, even if it's just like content creation, putting it out there, like people don't see the behind the scenes and the work that goes into it. So it does take a lot of time, especially for people like
Yeah.
us, because we work 9 to 5. So we don't have that much free time on our hands. So it does take a lot of efforts. It does take a lot of time, and you just have to be patient. You just have to keep going. Pretty much, you have to put in the effort. Like if I would just work my 9 to 5 and then I come home and I'm like, oh, I'm too tired. I don't wanna. I don't want to deal with classy right now. I don't want to go on my Instagram and I don't want to post about things. It doesn't work. Like right now, I've been so busy with work that I haven't been able to really post about things, and I need to place orders for my new products that I want to launch soon, and I just haven't had the time to like sit down and do that, just because we've both been so busy with work. So even
Yeah.
before I launched Classy, actually, it took me about 3 years to finally. I had the first product in mind for about 3 years before we finally were able to bring it to Mauritius. So yeah, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of efforts, that's for sure.
I think it's almost like even with social media, I don't know if you feel that at all. It feels like, for me, it comes in waves. There are moments where I'm like, I don't want to be on here. I don't want to post. I'm probably scrolling and
Yeah,
watching other things, but I just
yeah,
don't want to be on it. I feel now with the podcast, it's maybe made it a bit more interesting for me because I'm talking to other people. So suddenly I feel like very
yeah,
refreshed and very motivated because it's new people, new
yeah.
conversations, it's stimulating versus, previously was
Mm.
about fashion and traveling. So yes, it does come with ways where sometimes you're
Yeah,
like, I don't want to be on it, but with the work, it does make it adds another
definitely.
layer of
Yeah,
time
exactly,
consumption.
definitely. You need to be good at time management.
100%. And moving on to maybe something more sensitive, but we did talk about this, and you
Mm-hmm.
were okay sharing. Coming on to your
Mm-hmm.
religion and your faith, you're a
Mm-hmm.
Muslim woman who are very comfortable dressing up, partying, and you show that on your
Mm-hmm.
social media. And sometimes that may come at the cost and risk of
Mm.
being judged or trolls, which doesn't feel
Yeah,
fair in today's world because everyone has the right to do whatever they
exactly.
want, despite their religion, despite their faith. That's your
Exactly.
choice. But you've been very honest and you've clearly sometimes
Mm-hmm.
expressed your opinion. So let's maybe talk about this. So when you're judged or when you're sometimes being trolled for just being open about your lifestyle, has it come at a cost of,
Mm.
bothering you mentally?
Yeah.
Has it hurt you? And how do you deal with this? How do you get stronger? Because my impression of you from the outside is that you're very honest. I've seen you sometimes taking it out trolls,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's funny because the way you
Yeah.
talk openly about it, you name
Mm-hmm.
drop, you shame them.
Like I mentioned before, I have been on social media for a while now, and I've always been this way, really. For me, like my faith is very personal. Like my relationship with God is something that's like no one's business. It's my business. It's no one's business, really. So they shouldn't be worried
Hmm.
about my relationship with God or my faith or what is it I do or don't do. So yeah, definitely it does come at a cost when you're on such a public platform. But the thing is, like, people are going to judge you no matter what you do. Even if I wasn't on a public platform, even if I was just living my life, like, you're going to get judged no matter what you do. So I've just chosen to not give a really. I don't know if I can swear on here, but yeah.
Keep it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've just chosen to really not. When I first started, it used to really affect me. Like, I'm human after all, and it still does affect me. Like sometimes, yeah, sometimes some people can be really, really mean in how they come across. Like um even if they're trying to tell you something nice, like there are ways that you can, even if you're trying to give me advice, like there are ways that you can do that without being rude. But like I've definitely gotten a lot of
Hmm.
hate from the Muslim community, I'm going to rephrase that, from the Mauritian Muslim community, because I have Muslim friends here, and
Okay.
they are not as judgy as some of the Mauritian Muslim community, like some of the Mauritian Muslims can be. Um, so yeah, I do get a lot of hate very
Hmm.
often. When you say, like, when you're saying that I share a lot and I name drop and all that things on my Instagram, on my TikTok, that's probably like 1%, really. Like
Really?
I there was a time, yeah, like I don't share most of it. I'm on TikTok. When I first started posting on TikTok, I would wake up every day and go on my comments, and there'd be, because of the time difference, like I'm usually sleeping when people in Mauritius are on TikTok at, yeah, at
Right.
night. So when I wake up, I'll wake up to like at least two or three hate comments every day. It was ridiculous. I know. So
Oh,
I would
wow.
I just like I've just come to realize that these people, like, they're kind of sad, really. Like, if you're gonna, for me, like, my girlfriends and I were just talking about this yesterday. We were out on a girls' night, and we were talking about how pathetic it is, really, to like leave a hate comment on someone's video, or just say something that's not nice about
Hmm.
someone. Like, if you don't have anything nice to say, you should just shut your mouth, really. Don't you agree?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And I think for me, what's shocking is that when you mentioning that this is just like
Mm.
1% of everything that you receive, and I think like you've built yourself into someone strong,
Yeah.
both mentally
Yeah.
and emotionally, that you manage to block the noise out. But someone
Exactly.
maybe less mentally and emotionally
Exactly.
strong than you, waking up to such
Right.
messages every day, I think that can be quite
Exactly.
daunting. Because I think, like, let's go back to early days when we started working, right? Like, even a little comment from a
Yeah.
superior or
Really
like a
gets to
boss
you.
could have been like a good
Yeah.
positive criticism. Like,
Yeah, of
that gets to
course.
me.
Sometimes it's
Not
still.
anymore, like you say. I don't give an F.
Yeah.
So I can imagine how
Mm.
hard that must be. And I think the one thing I maybe wanted to really get to, because I think that could be important to maybe younger women, younger men in like their early 20s or like starting university. Do I hear that you were not
Mm.
always like this, as in being that tenacious, being that open to, to fight or
Mm.
like argue or
Yeah,
let it
yeah.
not get to you? Over time, that's how
Yep.
you became. But were you always like this at the beginning?
Not 100%. I kind of always was a little bit like this, where I just don't let
Hmm.
other people's opinions or judgments affect my way of living, really, or my lifestyle, whatever I want to do. Like, I have always
Okay.
done whatever I want to do, whether that be coming from, like, maybe even
Hmm.
from family or just from strangers in general. But yeah, I wasn't always
Hmm.
as, like, now, if I just see something that, if I just see a comment, most of the time I just block and delete. So I wasn't always like this. Like, sometimes, like, I remember, like, when I first started back then, I would always show my husband the comments I was getting, or if someone said something really mean to me. And I remember, like, there were times where I would even cry over, like, comments and things like that. Like, it doesn't affect me that much at all now. Like, I'm glad to say I don't cry over comments anymore. So yeah, if, like, especially, what you said was, like, really accurate, because I always think when I get these hate comments, even if it's on live or on TikTok, especially, I always think about those who might not be as, like, mentally strong, or, even
Hmm.
just like a normal person, just like trying to create content and put something out there. They're like putting themselves out there on a public platform. Like, it takes courage to do that. Like,
Yeah.
you're being vulnerable, pretty much, to, like, criticism and
Hmm.
everyone. And yes, you should accept criticism, but only if, like, people are being nice. Like, only if they're being nice about it. Like, you can give advice to
Okay.
someone, you can give positive criticism to someone, like, in a nice way. Do you get what I mean? Like, if someone's just being rude to
Hmm.
you, really, like, all I think about is that these people, they have nothing better to do in their life. That's the reason that they're being rude to you. That's why they have to take it out on others. And I think the way that you portray yourself, even online, or whatever you say online, is like kind of a reflection of who you are, right? Like, if you have insecurities, they're gonna project their insecurities on others. So whenever people say these, like, mean things about me, and the advice I would give to, like, young creators, or people who are just starting out, or even just people who might not be as mentally strong, I would say, just don't give a them, really, because you're clearly you clearly must be doing something right for people to be talking about you or for people to be saying something to you.
It's almost like I've heard of a term like that's. It's almost like when you're copying someone, for instance, they say that's the best
Yeah.
imitation is like the
My
best.
husband always said that.
Like
Sorry to cut you off because
what does
when I would tell him about these hate comments back in the days, that's what he would tell me. That exact phrase.
yeah, it is. It is very true.
Yeah.
It's almost like if someone's talking about you, you must have done something to
Yes.
either trigger the interest, and perhaps they're not doing the things
Yeah.
that you are. So no, I
Yeah.
am fully on board with you here, and I think you mentioned like for instance like you not caring much about what people say now, and part of your life, obviously your life in Australia, it revolves around your husband, who I believe you met when you were at
First
university.
day of uni.
And oh wow, okay. So you went to Mauritius and you had you got married there
Thank
recently.
you.
Congratulations once
Thanks.
again, by the way. And it looked amazing for me. You know, it looked just so refreshing. And we're seeing it more now, but it looks so refreshing seeing two people from two different cultures, two different faiths, being able to come together, have their families around them, because his family and friends came to Mauritius too. Your family were there. You had an amazing ceremony where that was a time where he continued discovering your culture
Yeah.
and your faith. And yet, like one of the things that sort of ties back to the previous question, on TikTok, you were very open and you discussed one of the, or could be more, but one of the haters who sort of talked about him for him being Mexican and yet not being a white
Yes.
American. And that to me felt not just narrow-minded, but I was
I
like, what's the
know.
mindset there? So when people talk about your husband and get down to that level of details about him being American, but not a white American because he's Mexican, do you
I
find
was
that
so
shocking
shocked
at
when I
all?
read that, really. Like that again, that's a reflection on that person because that just shows me that that person is clearly not educated or just hasn't gone out enough in his life. Because how can you think that being American only means being white? Because America is such a like diverse country, just like the UK, just like Australia, for example. If you say someone's British, like, are you expecting them to be white? If you just tell someone that like someone's British, you're not going to expect them to be white. They could be any race, correct? Yeah, so that was extremely shocking to me when I read that. I was like, oh, okay. And I guess maybe because I don't really talk about him being Mexican enough. Like I always say he's Mexican American, but maybe that person was new or they just don't know me enough or something like that. But yeah, he is Mexican American. Like he was born in the US, but he does have Mexican parents. But yeah, it was extremely shocking to me to hear that, and it does show that that person was like obviously like a little bit racist as well, like
I
because
would.
yeah, it was very shocking to me to for someone to think that being American means only being white. It was ridiculous, really. Because he's
No, go
brown,
on.
I do like I tell you, you only see about 1% of the hate comments that I get. There's something that I get quite often is that they will say that why do you always claim that your husband is American? Like he looks like a Bangladeshi. What does that even mean? Like
I completely condemn the fact that you've had to deal with the racist comments, whether that's to do with your husband. It's
yeah,
you guys are a
myself as
couple,
well. I've
and
been called
I find
Bangladeshi.
it really you've had
Yeah, someone was like, "Oh,
oh
she thinks she's so pretty."
I may sound surprised
Yeah,
because
she thinks she's so pretty.
yeah.
She looks like a Bangladeshi.
Yeah, I think I sound surprised because I think living in London, obviously you're surrounded by different cultures and different races. And maybe the UK before, from what I had heard, was more racist. But I think living in
Yeah.
London, I'm a person of color, but I mean, touch wood,
Yes.
I've never suffered or faced racism so far in London, which is why like hearing about like your experience, even whether that's on TikTok or in real life, for someone to call you out like in 2023, it is shocking because you would have felt like there has been work, people's
Yeah,
mindsets
yeah.
have been
Have you
changing.
experienced anything like that online yourself? Because you also have a platform.
In terms of racism, no. In terms of hate comments, no. But if I used to post, for instance, and I don't do much
Hmm.
product collaborations anymore, but if I used to post something that I've used, right, and whether I was getting paid or not, I mean, yes, you would have the trolls asking, yes, but does it really
Yeah.
work? Like, you're just
Yeah.
posting
Yeah.
it because, but
Yeah.
that's like the advent of marketing. But it's like things like that would
Yeah.
even get to me. My sister, I have to say, my twin wasn't particularly comfortable being on a public platform when we started it. It was always me. She wasn't comfortable, and I think over time now
Yeah.
you know, data's everywhere. Your profile, whether it's private or not, I can find you on LinkedIn or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's almost everywhere. But I did have maybe, you know, like family members. If I wore like a very low cut dress, which my parents are more than fine, and obviously I'm a woman, like my parents wouldn't say anything. I had a very strict upbringing, and then once education was done, it was like, okay, now you have the freedom and
Same.
independence to do whatever you want. But I did have family members or like distant relatives taking my pictures on my Instagram to show
Same.
my mom, being like, this is how Gemma is dressing.
Same. Yeah, yeah,
No
yeah.
one you
It's
did.
so funny.
I was
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah, they would do that. But my mom follows me on
Yeah,
everything. So it
yeah,
was
I've had
like, she
that.
was like, "Oh, yeah, like, why are you showing me? I've already seen it."
One person showed it to my grandma. I won't name drop, but my grandma was like, "Yep," but like, you know, Gemma's in her late 20s. She's got a job. She's a
Exactly.
woman. That, and also she's in Europe. Like, fair enough. Like when she comes to visit me, she wouldn't
Yeah,
be dressing that way.
exactly.
And it was a low cut dress. It was like, but I had that. That was my experience
Yeah.
with social media. Moving on and talking, maybe we talk about Mauritius, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a good segue. So you live in Australia, I live in London, and yet we're both very
Yeah.
connected to our Mauritian roots. When you go back, do you have a sense of belonging there, but then, you know, you still
Mm.
decided to stay back in Australia, and obviously you met your
Yeah.
husband, you have your life there. Like, how do you deal with going back and feeling like, okay, I would love to be in Mauritius, but then you come back to this. It's almost like you belong to two countries, like
Yeah.
to two
Yeah.
places. Do you struggle with that at all?
Um, the struggle mostly comes because my whole family like is in Mauritius. Like we have no family here pretty much. My cousin is in Melbourne, but she's really far away. Um,
Hmm.
it's just not as close to get to. So the struggle does come because of that. I definitely still feel like I belong to Mauritius. So my end goal would be to make enough money where I can go back and live my life there eventually. So yeah, the end goal
Hmm.
is to return home.
And your husband would love
Yeah, he loves
to live
Mauritius
there.
really. Obviously, there's like it's ups and downs. So we live in such a big city now. Going back to a tiny island
Hmm.
would definitely be a bit challenging, but it's not going to be anytime soon. It would probably be to retire really, or even if not to retire, maybe like
Right.
to live. Be able to afford a lifestyle where we can spend a lot of time in Mauritius and also be able to travel a lot to wherever we want.
I think with traveling now, it's made it a bit easier to sort of, you know, you can afford to go home at least once a year if you
Hmm.
really want to. For me, I don't know, I feel like I might want to go back, but literally because my family
Yeah,
is there, like my parents are there, even if they come
yeah,
around during the summer. It's like seeing them. Last time I was thinking about this, it's like I see my parents
yeah,
max like a
exactly.
month in a year. Like if I do
It's
2 weeks here,
hard.
2 weeks there, it's just,
It's not
it's
enough.
not
Yeah,
enough.
it's hard.
Hmm. And you're
Yeah, I'm
very close to
extremely
your
close to my
mom.
mom. I speak to my mom every day, so but it's not enough. Like just talking on the phone is not enough. Like she's growing old, my grandparents are growing old. Like I want to be there more than just like 3 weeks to 4 weeks a year.
Hmm.
And especially during like that's where it really hit me the most, like after COVID really, where we couldn't go back home for such a long time. I hadn't seen them for 4 years when I went back last year to get married with my husband. I hadn't seen my family for 4 years. It was after 4 years that I went back. So that was that's when I was like, oh my God, I've missed so much. Like my cousins are all grown up. They're all like adults now, and I've seen them like since they were babies. Um, that really made me feel like I was like, oh, like it's time to start thinking. That's something that all of us struggle with, like you, me, like, not having family around. I feel like that's always been such a struggle, but I feel like growing up, I've come to, like, I really feel it a lot more now. I really feel like the need for my family around me a lot more. For some reason, I don't know why, but I do now.
For me, the sad part is like going back, even if you go back after 6 months or even a year, you can see the physical changes on like
Yeah,
your parents' face. Physically, you can start seeing, I think for me, that's like the bit that really gets to me. When I see them first time at
exactly.
the airport, I can start seeing the
Yeah,
physical changes. And I don't want to get too deep, but there's this whole concept of, obviously there's nothing infinite as such, but I just don't want to be in a position, touch wood, where I'm still here or I haven't gone back home, I haven't talked to my parents, and like I'm in a
something
position where,
happens.
don't want to
Yeah,
have regrets. And maybe that could explain why we feel that way
yeah.
over time. And since you spoke about Mauritius in the very in the future, maybe a retirement time, what's next for you professionally or even personally in
For
life?
me, I really want to work a lot more on Class C. Class C is my biggest project. So that is for me. That's how I see myself moving back to Mauritius. Really. So if which it will, I'm sure it will when
Hmm.
it takes off. I don't like to say if. When it really takes off, when I have more time and effort to put into it.
I love that.
So that's my ultimate goal, is that I would just be an entrepreneur then, and just like own multiple businesses. My my ultimate goal is to have a luxury boat company. I've never actually said that to like online. So like my online
Love, love.
community doesn't really know that about me. But yeah, I'm like a massive fan of like boats, yachts, all of them, really. Even just like a small rowing boat, I love them. My husband and I actually have a boat here, so a small one. It's nothing fancy, but yeah,
Okay.
it's a small one. But yeah, my ultimate goal is to have a luxury boat company. So that's why I will say yes, I have arrived. Like I have reached my goal now. I can finally relax and take more
You made
vacation. Yeah,
it.
exactly. I've made it. Correct. But yeah, but until then, until then, I'm still working my 9 to 5. Obviously, like I love what I do as a bullion trader, so I will stay in the bullion industry for as long as needs be. I did recently get promoted to manager. Yeah, so I see myself being with them, or even just in the industry for really the rest of my corporate career, I would say.
And I was going to ask if there's something that was maybe of a cheeky question or maybe more of a sharing time. If there was anything that you haven't told your audience yet. So I don't know if that would be
Yeah,
the boat's aspiration. But is there
yeah, it
anything?
would be
Hmm.
that, because that's something that I don't really like sharing, because that's, it's like you have that one thing that you're working for, but you just don't want to share it yet.
Cool,
I
but that's
am
something
very
I do
superstitious.
believe in.
Extremely super, like I have like the wackiest beliefs. That's because I come from a family who's like very superstitious as well, so it's ingrained in me.
I love that we can be modern, we can be
Yeah,
independent, call us whatever. But
yeah,
yes, we are superstitious, we are
definitely.
old
Yeah,
school.
exactly. That would be the one thing
Hmm.
that I am telling my audience through you now, is that that's my ultimate goal in life.
Nabila, we are getting to the end of the podcast, and customary question. What is the one thing that you think you've figured out so far in life? And that can be
That's a
anything.
good question. What have I figured out in life? For me, like when I used to live in Mauritius, I could also be quite judgmental about some things, but I feel like traveling and
Hmm.
getting to know other cultures, it's really made me become a more open person, and I feel like I'm a lot more patient. I'm a better person in general. So, and I strive to be better every day. I try to be conscious about um, how I try to put myself in someone else's shoe before I say something that might affect them, or if I before I even judge
Hmm.
someone, I try to put myself um, first of all, I try not to judge people. But yeah, so for me, I was gonna say maybe some people like need to really, even if it's not just traveling, like people really need to start looking at other cultures, being more open towards other cultures, and just really exploring other cultures in general. I would say like, yeah, you need to live and let live, and you need to like really start, they need to like really start exploring other cultures and just realize that yeah, they're not the only person that matters.
What I do hear from this is, you know, for me growing up, the part that I can relate to what you just said is that yes, I did have an attitude, or I did think like, you know, growing up, university done, I'll be getting married to someone within my culture, because if you get married, you know, when people or elders would talk about, oh, that person got
Yeah.
married outside the community, or look at how that girl is dressed. Like I did form my
Yes,
view of the world
exactly.
in a certain way. And I do hear you. Until you leave and you step
Yes.
outside the comfort of your home, of your country, you travel, you're exposed. Yes, it just forms you into a better, but also just an
Yes.
open-minded person, and you tend to appreciate other cultures, other beliefs,
Yeah,
more
exactly.
openly.
Yeah. Yeah, you phrase it way better than I did.
Well, Nabila, thank you so much. I love chatting to you, and I love that we had our moments of giggles and laughter and what else not. But it was so nice just connecting, but also having Mauritius in common and a few other things. And I do appreciate you talking to me after a series of connection issues. And I know you've missed your dinner, but thank you so much for chatting to me. Absolutely love connecting with you and finally getting to see you over Zoom. So hopefully we meet, you know, one day in Mauritius, or it
Yeah.
could be when you're here in London or when I'm
Yeah.
in Aussie. But
Yeah,
thanks
it
so
was really
much.
great chatting with you, Gemma. Thanks so much for having me. And I would love to meet you in London. I don't know if I told you, but London is like one of my favorite cities. I love London, so I would love to see you there.
Oh, do
Yeah,
hit me up when you're here. We'll go around and we'll have a great meal and have an
definitely.
amazing
Yeah. But
time.
yeah, I was gonna say I am a little bit hangry, so if I said something that offends anyone, please don't hate me.
I'm sure they will. You have an amazing community, and I think you were just very honest. And you know, there's a reason why we have this chat, and it's just to open up more conversations, to let other people know that it's not just them feeling a certain way or experiencing
Yeah.
certain things. So thank you for being candid, and thank you for being
Yeah, I
honest.
love
Love
chatting to
chatting
you.
to you.
Thanks for having me.
Hi everyone, just before you leave, if you enjoyed today's episode, please take the time to leave a review and subscribe to the show. It truly helps with the algorithm, but also for me to know if I'm doing the right things, as I'm here to keep on learning. Thank you so much, your support means a lot to me.